our last speaker for before the questions and before your contributions is Pertti Vakkari, Professor of Information Studies in the School of Information Sciences in the University of Tampere. His research interests include information seeking and searching, and evaluation, interactive information retrieval, and outcomes for public libraries. The researches in the Nordic countries, Finland and Sweden and Denmark, has been quite. The research in these countries has been quite has been focused in the outputs of public libraries. In my opinion, this is a very important field of research, and it has a close connection with the Piketty suggestion that Luis Codina suggests. Because in my opinion, public libraries, not only public but also public libraries, should be presented as a home for the future. In the sense that they are helping the society to build trust. That is one of the goods more difficult to build or to fabric. Pertti, sorry, but also I take the occasion to recommend some part of Barcelona. After being visiting interesting museums and that, I strongly recommend to go to around the Born area, and that we call the Born is the old market. It's a medieval part of our city, and Santa Maria del Mar. It's full of nice bars and restaurants and nice shops where you can to rest tomorrow after the shopping. Pertti, thank you to be here.
Thank you. Now I need help because I'm a total Mac user and this is a PC. How to start the slides? Well, actually, I would like to mention that my favorite in Barcelona is the opera LIS-ER. It's really great. I appreciate very much.
You are a strong competitor.
Yeah.
It's this one, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you to celebrate the 100th anniversary of this Library Information School in Barcelona. Unfortunately, I'm able to present trends in library information science research during the last 50 years, from 1965 to 2015, but I hope that you can bear that. Well, the outline of my talk is that, well, actually, I skipped characterizing science and research. I begin immediately by presenting some trends in our research during 1965 and 2015. Then, in the end of my presentation, I have one slide where I show you how the European Library and Information Science School are doing in research in an international comparison, and I have some conclusions in my talk. So my presentation is based on a recent article which is written by our student Otto Tuomala, my colleague Kalervo Järvelin, and myself. It's published last year in JASIST. And if you would like to know more about the trends in library information science between 1965 and 2005, you can take a look of that article. I wish to update the data for this year, and therefore I analyzed articles from 24 LIS core research journals in this year. I took the second issue of each of these journals, and if it was not available, I took the first one. Then our analysis reveals various characteristics of library and information science research from 1965 to 2015. The classification of the different features of research, like the topic of the research is based on an earlier article by my colleague Kalervo Järvelin and myself, which is published already in 1990. And you can imagine that the classification, at least the topical classification, doesn't fit so well to the recent data from 2005 and 2015, and therefore we made some changes in the classification so that it would fit better to the new research trends. Okay, I skip these, and I begin with the distribution of research topics over the years. And you can see here one or two clear trends. First of all, there are 4 major research areas currently in our field. This is information searching and information retrieval research. This is research on the services, library services, and they are relatively stable, or I would say that the topics which are related to library services are decreasing. And also, it seems to me that to a certain extent, the research on information retrieval is also decreasing to a certain extent. But I suppose that this fits well with the results which were presented in the introductory speech. And then there are 2 research areas which are growing: information seeking and bibliometrics, or scientific and professional communication. And actually, I would add here that in 65, 85, we didn't include the journal Scientometrics in our data, and this naturally reflects our understanding what is the field. And now we come back to the question introduced by Professor Urbano, that what is our field, what is the content of our field, and that's naturally always debatable. And then we included scientometrics in the 2005 data and 2015 data. And as you can see, then the other topics are not so popular here. Then we can look at the viewpoint on the information dissemination process. We categorize the information dissemination process by using the typical actors in the process, like producer of the, or creator of the information, developer of information services and systems, intermediaries, and end users. And you can see here also a clear trend. The research is looking its research object more from the point of view of end user or end user organization, or from several interconnected phases. This is the several interconnected phases. This is end user organization's point of view, and this is end user's point of view. So they are increasing while end user organization's point of view is decreasing. And actually, I think that this reflects the trend that, let's say, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, researchers were studying the problems of a particular institution providing access to information, and by that I mean library and information service institutions, while then currently the researchers are more interested in how different services and systems provide access to information and how people are using it, and how we can develop those more general systems. And then this shows what is the unit of analysis in the studies. And in social sciences, it's typical to distinguish three different levels: individual level approaches, organizational level approaches, and societal level approaches. And for instance, information behavior studies are typically observing individuals, how they behave. And then an example of the approach we took into account, I think both societal and organizational level, was the talk in yesterday, which presented the trends of LIS education in Europe. So it compared the situation country by country and also took account the organizations which provided the education. Actually, what you can see here that actually the interest in observing and analyzing individual behavior in our studies is increasing, while other types of analysis, this interest in how organizations behavior or how people in organizations behave, or the interest in societal problems or multi-level analysis is very, very weak. If you think what kind of research we need in our field, an important thing is that we would like to provide services and access to information. And for that we use different kind of organizations, services and tools. And if we observe only the behavior of individuals, not taking into account the characteristics or features of those systems, then it means that actually our conclusions and recommendations based on developing the systems and services are based only observing individual behavior and their perspectives. And what I'm suggesting and what I think is important to make a combined multi-level research, so that in our research design we should include more variables and factors which describe the characteristics of services and systems. And one simple example is, if you look at the studies on interactive information retrieval, it's very typical that they are evaluation experiments. They contain the features of the interface and the systems, and then they compare the systems and how people behave by using these systems. That's a simple multi-level analysis, and I recommend that also if we study this library services or something like that, we take also into account the characteristics of those organizations and associate it with the behavior of individuals. And that's one of the challenges. Okay. And this shows the investigation types. You can see here that there are either empirical researches or then other types of researches, and I won't go into the details. But as you can see, and I think that it's only natural that empirical research takes a largest part of the research. This is about, let's say, 90–95%. But the trend here is that actually during the last 10 years, the proportion of empirical descriptive studies has increased, and the proportion of comparative studies has decreased, while the proportion of explanatory studies has been about the same. And my suggestion would be that we should have more comparative and explanatory studies, that if we really want to understand the phenomenon we are looking, naturally we do need empirical descriptive studies that we understand the basics, but after that we should be able to explain, for instance, why people are searching, for instance, information the way they are doing, and for that we need more comparative or explanatory research. Okay, I think that Place Groening was referring to this article yesterday in his talk yesterday. This is an article published in JASIST Early View, I think in the end of April. And I had the reference in the last slide of my presentation. And actually, this article looked at the departmental, for it looks other things as well, but departmental contributions to library and information science literature during 2007 and 2012. Well, it counted actually the number of publications in the core journals of our field. So each article get a value of 1, but then this measure was discounted by the number of authors in the article and the position of author in the article. For instance, if one article had 2 authors, then the first author get 0.67 points, and the second one 0.33% or so. But here you can see the list of the 20 top departments contributing to LIS literature. And I have marked with yellow European universities and departments. And as you can see here, in terms of research contribution, the European LIS departments are doing quite well, because the top 10 includes 5 schools, 1 from Finland, then 2 from United Kingdom, 1 from Denmark, and then 1 from Leiden, from the Netherlands. And in top 20 there is 9 departments, so not so bad. Okay, if we go to the conclusion, so the major aim of the science, I think, is the growth of knowledge, which may produce also then practical implications. And the results show that information retrieval, information seeking, library information services, and scientific and professional communication are the most popular areas of research. And then I would say that there is a lack of studies in our field using other than individual level approach to phenomena and with explanatory research design. Okay, thank you, and here are the references which I used for this presentation.